Hey, what if I told you the Tar Heels could have a front court transfer who averaged 16 points, nearly 8 rebounds, and over 40% from three down the stretch last season? You'd love it, right? Boy, do I have good news for you.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, May 27th, 2024. Welcome in to the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. I want to thank you for making us your first listen or watch, and extend a special welcome to all you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. So glad that you all are here. Coming up on the show today, I want to remind you that the early entry withdrawal deadline for the NBA draft is coming up Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So just kind of stay tuned for that with portal movement. I want to talk about some closing numbers for a portal transfer, a front court portal transfer that may be enticing for us Tar Heels. I also want to talk about the need to reserve judgment on perceived success or failure of transfer portal movement in the offseason. We'll discuss that. And then we'll look at the Diamond Heels, how the baseball team's doing, where they're at right now, and the men's golf team in their pursuit of a national championship. So let's get right into this. Let me just pose this essentially the same way I did in the cold open. What if I told you right now you could have a high major front court transfer who, once fully healthy last season, averaged the following numbers in the final month of the season? That was not across 9 games. Here's the numbers: 16.2 points, 7.7 rebounds, 3.2 of which were offensive. Oh, by the way, 41.2% from three, 53.3% from two, a steal a game, and not like just under a block a game at 0.9. That sounds great, right? Again, 16 points, 7.7 rebounds, over 40% from three, 1 steal, just under a block. You'd love to have that, right? Guess what? You know who that is? That's Ven-Allen Lubin. And we've already got him. It's not some just hypothetical thing I'm throwing out there for you. That guy I just talked about is a Tar Heel. So here's what I like about this. You might be asking, Isaac, why are you picking those numbers? Why are you picking that timeline? Are you cherry picking? What's going on here? Well, I picked that because Ven-Allen Lubin last year played 26 games for Vanderbilt. He missed, and we talked about this late last week, but he missed the first 4 games of the season with a hip injury, missed 2 more around Christmas time with a groin injury. And so it took him a while to really get in and settled and get going and be as productive as he could be for Vanderbilt last year. And so I picked those games because it was the final month of the season. Once he's really settled in, it's against SEC level competition, both regular season and conference tournament. And that's when he really found who he was. And so I'm not cherry picking those numbers. I'm using those numbers because, quite frankly, I think they are more representative of what Ven-Allen Lubin can be and is when healthy. And I don't say when healthy to suggest that I think he's injury prone or that I'm just saying that's what this player is. 16 and 7.7 and over 40% from three, a steal and just almost a block a game. So in those 9 games, not only am I not cherry picking, but that's over a court. They played 32 games last year, and this is 9 of them. That's 28%, a little over 28% actually. So I say this as an encouragement for me, and I hope for you, as I've been processing his spot and his role and how he fits in. I'm encouraged by what I see by that. And let me say this and set it aside. I recognize, I'm not trying to say that the context at Vanderbilt is the context at North Carolina, right? It is not, and it can't be a 1-for-1 substitution. We can't just assume that the numbers he had at Vanderbilt will be the numbers he had at Carolina, for good or for bad, right? I'm not saying he's going to score more. I'm not saying he's going to score less. Same with rebounding, shooting, other stuff. There's just no way to look at that. For example, I don't think his usage will be as high at North Carolina. But I do know that he will have better talent around him, and that's going to allow him even more opportunities to maybe score or shoot more efficiently and effectively, rebound, do other things, because less attention will be paid to him than it was at Vanderbilt. That's a true thing. Vanderbilt didn't have RJ Davis. Vanderbilt didn't have Cade Tyson or Seth Trimble or Jalen, and that's not to disparage Vanderbilt's talent last year. It's just the fact of the matter is that Carolina is a more talented basketball team than Vanderbilt. But while you can't just one-for-one substitute, there are some things that, as I dig into Ven-Allen Lubin even more, that do translate. Here's an example. Last year at Vanderbilt, Ven-Allen Lubin never fouled out. 0 times, literally never. And in his entire career, including his first year at Notre Dame, fouled out once at Notre Dame. So across 2 seasons of college basketball, Ven-Allen Lubin, a front court player, has fouled out 1 time. And it was his freshman year. That translates wherever you are. That shows, we've already talked about his basketball IQ, stuff like that. This is a representative of that Ven-Allen Lubin knows how to play this game. He's smart. He knows how to stay away from foul issues, things like that. So again, I do not think I'm cherry picking when I look at this. And it kind of hit me when I saw it last week. And I was like, man, I know the numbers like really, really picked up like the last 2 games of the season. But as I started looking more, I was like, man, it was like the last quarter of the season, quarter plus. And that's when he was getting healthy. That's when he was figuring things out. So as you start to think about it, and I know a lot of people have poo-pooed Ven-Allen Lubin, but I think a lot of people have started to wrap their brains around it. It's kind of similar to what Kentucky did when they hired Mark Pope. I think a lot of fans at first were like, Mark Pope? Really? But now they've rallied around him, and it's like, all right, this is our head coach. Let's get on it. I think that's where a lot of people are with Ven-Allen Lubin. That's where I am. It's like, okay, this is our guy. What does it mean? What does it look like? At worst, to me, what I like about getting Ven-Allen Lubin is that he is an insurance policy at best for not landing anyone else, right? Like, it's guaranteed. You have Ven-Allen Lubin. He is, it's no guarantee of what he's going to do, but he is a productive, high major front court player that has shown that. So at worst, you've got somebody that is solid in your front court, and you'll take that going along with these other guys. At best, he is a unique front court player that meshes with the Tar Heels' talented backcourt and, other front court guys in a way that Carolina hasn't done. So at best, this could be a whole new world that it's like, hey, this is awesome. And he's doing things that we didn't really think about how Carolina could play or who they could be or what that looks like. That's a very real possibility. Is it likely? I don't know. I'm just saying it's possible. So there's a wide spectrum there, but at worst, getting Ven-Allen Lubin is a solid insurance policy, and I will definitely take that. Now, as part of that conversation, portal success or portal failure right now isn't a guarantee either way. It's literally just stats and names on paper. I want to talk about how to process that and what that looks like, and we'll do that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors, they've got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Why? Because with eBay Guaranteed Fit and eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. It's only available to U.S. customers. I just talked some about Ven-Allen Lubin, what he did down the stretch of the season, and then just mentioned like, hey, at worst, he's an insurance policy. At best, he's a unique player like Carolina hasn't had really in the Hubert Davis era for the front court. And I think that dichotomy led me to thinking over the weekend this idea. I think we've heard a lot, and I know I'm just as guilty of this as anybody. And it's not just Tar Heels, it's fan bases and people thinking across the nation. We have to realize this about perceived portal success or lack thereof. It's literally just on paper right now. That's all it is. Until we see the product on court, and not only that, but a big sample size of it, we literally don't know what we're getting. You don't know how the pieces fit. Like, even when you get the majority of your team back, you don't know how the pieces fit. See Carolina 2 years ago, right? It just is what it is. So, because even when you do see it on court, it often takes a long time to figure it out and mesh and get everyone together. I think that's why the past couple of years we've seen so many highly ranked teams lose, particularly early in the season, because they're still trying to figure out who they are and how they've worked together. Carolina's not been immune to that. Think about the team that went to the national championship game in Hubert Davis's first year. For a lot of that season, man, they got worked in multiple games. You know, like thinking about Tennessee and Kentucky just ran over them, for example. But then Dawson Garcia goes out with an injury. Brady Manick comes back into the starting lineup. He had started some games earlier. And then it's like all of a sudden they've got this thing figured out and they're rolling down the stretch. We all remember this. And then really, really realized it with the win at Duke to end Coach K's regular season career, and then just off and rolling in the ACC tournament and on through the NCAA tournament. It was great stuff. But it's a reminder and a recognition that until we see the team on the court and until we give them a good sample size, we just don't know. And think about it. Again, for better or for worse, how often do we, as Carolina people, see Duke celebrating their like preseason national championships? And by that, I mean like, hey, we won recruiting, we win. How often do we berate them for that? And so that says to me, like, then I'm not going to get too high or too low based on perception of what we've done or not done. Because who knows how all these pieces are going to fit together. I mean, it might be the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, all these pieces fitting together. You just don't know. An example, a negative example of this from Carolina's own past. Ahead of the 2022-23 season, we celebrated a preseason #1 ranking. Everyone's coming back except Brady Manick, and Pete Nance comes in for him. And that was an NIT level college basketball team. Didn't even go to the NIT. You know, they started working on the next season. But I mean, you think about like, oh, we had all the pieces back. It should have worked and it didn't. And I think about this. What if Caleb Love had decided to go off to the NBA draft that year? We all that offseason would have been, oh, no. We can't lose Caleb. He's the Duke killer. He just ended Duke in the Final Four. But you have to wonder, who would Carolina have gotten to go alongside RJ Davis in the backcourt that season? And would the pieces have fit together better? And I don't mean that as a slam to Caleb. I mean just the way he and RJ fit and or don't fit together. If Caleb's gone, somebody else maybe comes in and is starting alongside RJ in the backcourt, and maybe the Tar Heels figure it out. And so, again, I give that as an example to say you can't look at what Carolina's done or not done this offseason and automatically assume what's going to happen this upcoming season. You just can't. But this is what we do, right? We see all the action, we see all the movement, and we are certain of what's going to happen. So I would just say that to caution all of us in getting too high or too low about Ven-Allen Lubin being a letdown or things like that. Because A, we don't know what's still going to happen in the portal. And B, we don't know that what's already happened between he and Cade Tyson is everything the Tar Heels need. It very well could be to be a great basketball team. We're just going to have to wait and see. Now, thinking about, though, what could be in the transfer portal, I've thought more about it over the weekend, just thinking about Coleman, Hawkins, and Ugonna Onyenso and landing another one of them or somebody else, that we haven't really talked too much about yet. Here's what I'd say specifically about those two guys right now based on, okay, we've got Ven-Allen Lubin. Let's recalibrate, reset, and look at who the Tar Heels are right now and who or what they still need. Between Hawkins and Onyenso, it's clear to me that Coleman Hawkins is the better basketball player. Like in a vacuum, that's who you want on your basketball team because they take your ceiling higher. He's also the more experienced player. He's got more years of college basketball under his belt, has been, healthier. Onyenso missed the beginning of last year. But when I think about Ugonna Onyenso, specific to this team, his skill set and what he brings to the table actually, in my opinion, fits a bigger area of need for this college basketball team. This is precisely the skill set, the talent versus fit conversation we've been having all offseason so far. Typically, when I think of fit, and I think when we talk about fit, we've thought about it as a personality thing, but fit can also be a need fit. And that's, to me, where Onyenso wins out over Hawkins. Carolina needs what he does more than they need what Coleman Hawkins does. Not that they would kick Coleman Hawkins to the curb. I think you'd definitely take him if he wants to come. But Onyenso has something that Carolina doesn't. Carolina will be able to play with the personnel they have most of the time. But there are times when they'll need more natural rim protection or something like that. And that's not Coleman Hawkins. That's Ugonna Onyenso. And so Onyenso, to me, he himself is not more versatile than Coleman Hawkins, but what he does allows Carolina to be more versatile. You tracking with me on that? So I'm very curious on Ugo particularly. I don't know that I would start him if you get him, and I don't know if that's a deal breaker for him. But what a different dynamic he brings if he comes to Carolina. So if Coach Davis can talk to him and sell him on that vision and he can catch it, pull the trigger, get him in. But if he doesn't catch that vision or doesn't like that vision, you don't want it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't mess with the locker room that you are working on developing right now. So I'm really curious to see what ends up happening with that. If Carolina just doesn't do more, or if they do go after one of those two guys or even somebody else. So again, I know we're going to continue to evaluate and judge Carolina's personnel moves this offseason. But the good news is none of us, literally none of us, not even Hubert Davis, has any idea until it starts coming together on the floor this fall. So we'll keep our eyes certainly on that. Now, other sports around Carolina are in the postseason right now. Unfortunately, the Diamond Heels couldn't get it done in the ACC tournament over the weekend, but perhaps that's not the worst thing in the world. I'll tell you what I mean coming up in just a second. Weekend whip around. Look, the 2023-24 academic year is winding down. I mean, school, it's already done, right? But just a couple more Tar Heel teams in action. I want to talk some about the baseball team, the Diamond Heels, and men's golf. Let's start with baseball, who were participating in the ACC tournament this weekend. We talked about it on Friday's show. They had beaten, quite frankly, the brakes off of Pittsburgh on Thursday. And then Carolina against Wake Forest on Friday night for a trip to the semifinals of the ACC tournament. Interestingly enough, Carolina, the 1 seed, as you well know, out of pools B, C, and D, none of them had the top seed going. So seeds 2, 3, and 4 knocked out before the semifinal round. And as we know, Carolina, too, fell and didn't make it. Heels lost 9-5 to Wake Forest on Friday night in 12 innings. it was a long one. Just kept going. Carolina missed opportunity after opportunity. They survived a phenomenal pitching performance, a dominant pitching performance from Chase Burns from Wake Forest. But thing is, he only got 18 outs, and you got to get 27 to win a baseball game. So Carolina just kept touch. The defense didn't let Wake get too far away, and then they were able to get it back and get a lead against Wake's bullpen. I mean, it was super, super impressive, but they just couldn't get it done. Wake gets a 2-out hit to tie the game in the bottom, or in the top of the ninth, and then Carolina can't walk it off. Missed a bases loaded 1-out opportunity in, what was it, the bottom of the 10th or 11th. And so just couldn't get it done. And so Carolina misses the semifinals. And in some ways, big picture wise, it really isn't the most awful thing to go out. It's kind of similar, like ACC basketball tournament. It's like, hey, let's win it while we're here. But if we do lose, okay, we're not wearing ourselves out ahead of the tournament that we care about, the NCAA tournament. And so it's not a whole bunch of games in a row. And specific to this situation, you might recall last week I said this ACC tournament schedule does 0 favors for the number 1 seed in this tournament, because Carolina plays the last pool game late Friday night, not to mention it went into extra innings. And then if they win, they got to turn around and play the first semifinal on Saturday at 1. I mean, that is just bad scheduling for the Tar Heels. And so in terms of getting rest, in terms of pitchers' arms not having to go into Saturday and Sunday 4 straight days, I really like you. You'd love to win it if you're there. Sure, why not? But I think it's great for getting some rest ahead of the regional coming up this weekend. And so we will take that and be happy with it. Now, the best news about what happened Friday night to me is you'll recall that Vance Honeycutt missed Thursday's game with some back spasms, played on Friday, didn't look good at all against Burns, was chasing, and at least his first couple of bats, then he walked. But the good news is Vance had a couple doubles, had right after Carolina made part of their comeback, had a great electric catch in center field to stop what could have been a rally for Wake to push back out into the lead. I mean, really, 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 really good. So should be good for this weekend. And it was just an encouraging sign to see him do that. So you love it. So, I mean, you think about where this goes next. Today, Monday, is Selection Monday. We'll know, maybe by the time you're listening to or watching this, depending on when that is, we will know on Monday Carolina's seed. We will know the teams in their region, etc., all that. Now, for those who don't know, the next step is you have little 4-team pods, double elimination. And Carolina, even though we don't yet know, well, actually we do, because they're announcing the region sites later Sunday. I'm recording this Sunday afternoon. And so Sunday night, they'll announce the regional host. They won't announce seeds or anything like that. So we will already know on Sunday night that Carolina is a regional host, but that's like done. I mean, it is obvious. The only question is, will Carolina be a top 8 seed, meaning they would get to host throughout the super regionals, as well, should they win their regional this coming weekend. So I know there was some concern among some people that not making at least the semifinals of the ACC tournament means Carolina will drop out of that top 8. I don't think so. I really, really don't. In fact, heading into the conference tournaments, like a 6 to 7, depending on whose projections you look at, of those top 8 national seeds were ACC and SEC teams. Hey, newsflash, only 2 of them can win that conference tournament. So I'm ultimately not worried. And I fully expect on Monday, today, when those regions are announced, to see Carolina as a top 8 seed. The question is just which seed it is and the other teams in their region. And then you already know the other region that you're paired with, who you would face in the super regional. So keep an eye out for all that. Men's golf, let's switch to that. NCAA championship is going on. They've had 3 days of stroke play already, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today, Monday, is the last day of stroke play. Here's kind of how things have progressed. After day one, Friday, Carolina found themselves in third place. We're +3 overall, shot 291 as a team. Virginia and Arizona were tied 1 stroke ahead of the Tar Heels at +2. Georgia Tech right behind at +4. And then after Saturday's second round action, the Tar Heels had dropped to 6th. On the day, they were +8, so meaning +11 overall. Virginia was at the top, +1, then Illinois second, Vandy third, Auburn fourth, and actually Carolina, had moved up to 5th because of some of the other action. And so Carolina and Ohio State were tied in 5th, with then Arizona and Florida State right behind, tied for 7th. And then every team after that was pretty far back. So then Sunday, stroke play day 3. Carolina is, let me check because it's actually still going as I record. Let's see if there are any new updates. Nope, nothing has changed since I last checked. So Carolina is 6th, tied for 6th with Auburn heading into today's action Monday. On the day on Sunday, they were +4 overall. They're +15. Now, what happens, and again, Sunday's day 3 action isn't over, but we'll cut the field from 30 teams down to 15. Carolina is, even though I'm recording ahead of that, they're safe and secure. No worries there. It's Illinois, Virginia, Vandy, 1, 2, 3, Florida State 4th, Ohio State 5th, and then Carolina and Auburn tied for 6th. Here's the nice thing. It doesn't matter how far behind any of those teams you are. You just got to be top 8 after today's stroke play action, because then what happens is tomorrow on Tuesday, you go to the quarterfinals and it's match play rather than stroke play. So you're head to head against another team. So let's say Carolina finishes 5th. They would go into match play against the team that finished 4th. You beat them, you go on to the semifinals, just on and on and on like that. So it is no gimme that Carolina will be top 8. Right now they're tied for 6th, but the teams in 8th and beyond are 5 or more strokes behind them. So if Carolina just does what they do, they should be in great shape to make Tuesday's match play action, but you can't mess around on Monday. That's the thing we're watching for. Also, after Monday's action is over, there will be they will crown the individual national champion. Peter Fountain right now is the low Tar Heel, tied for 16th at the time of this recording at +1. The leader is -5, so 6 shots ahead there. David Ford is the next Tar Heel, sitting at +3. So we'll obviously update all of this on Tuesday's show as well, both baseball and golf, keeping track of the last couple sports going on this season. Thanks, guys, so much for tuning in. It's always great to be together and kick off a brand new week. If you're not subscribed to the show already, very easy to do so, both on audio and video. We'd love to have you. Just hit subscribe. Boom, you're in and you'll get all the new episodes. On video on YouTube, if you hit that bell notification, you'll get notified every time a premiere goes or every time I go live. Make sure you get all of that. All right, y'all, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again on Tuesday, but until then,